So just looking at my TS1 for my foundation placement, setting high expectations which inspire, motivate and challenge pupils. Just from my start point, during my mentor meeting, I was set a target to establish clear routines and to get the group in and out of activities quickly during mini plenaries to help minimise disruptions and maximise teaching time. This will allow my group to understand and engage what my high expectations are and set them out from throughout the lessons. So here's just my mentor meeting sheet, which shows which it was to establish clear routines and groupings. I would measure this by receiving feedback and teaching to observe my lessons. Also, you'll see how the impact, also how it's had an impact later on in the lesson. So looking at my action point, so in my next lessons, I ensured I planned for how I was going to bring in the activities in between activities. So I did this for a theory lesson, was the main focus. Let's zoom out. So I ensure when I called the group in and stop the activity, I come in with a countdown. By the time I got to 1 or 0, they expected to be quiet. This allowed me to maximise teaching time and minimise disruptions. Also, as soon as the children arrived, to set the high expectations here by making sure they come in quickly and quietly and get their equipment out, stand behind the chair ready for the prayer, which is the school requirements. So allowing this would set my focus and minimise disruptions and how I will promote my positive action. So looking at how I've planned it for. So Savage in 2015 said effective planning can be viewed as a facilitator to maximise student learning and engagement throughout. So this planning allowed me to do this. So here's my PowerPoint I used for the lesson. So here each group would have how I did it in the lesson, each group would have a drug. So we're looking at, as I said, the theory lesson, each group would have a drug and they would learn their drug for 5 to 10 minutes it was. And after that, one person from each group would go to a different table to learn information about that drug. And then they would come back and feedback to that group. So it was in between the times when they were moving around the group is when I had to really get and set my expectations that I don't expect them to be running around the classroom. I expect them to be walking sensibly and making sure I'd use my countdown. So by the time I got to 0, everyone was focused and back with me, so I can tell them what my expectations are, when they'll be moving on to the next task. So looking at my impact, my mental feedback following the lesson was one of the impacts I looked at. So my mentor said it was good use of routines and calling the group in to refocus to come in the countdown, which mean limited disruptions and maximise teaching time, which I felt there was very few disruptions within the lesson. So that is a positive. Also looking at the impact of my teaching, how it impacted the students' pupil progress. So in their next lesson, it was the end of unit theory exam, and Michael here scores 25 out of 33, which is we're working up beyond if we was looking at our teaching levels within the school. But looking deep down into the paper, if we're looking at the questions which were related to the drugs in sport, where I really emphasised my teaching on setting those high expectation, clear routines, he actually scored full marks on the drugs in sports questions, which hopefully shows which my teaching was effective and ensuring that they had those routines in place where they wouldn't waste time. It maximised their teaching time. So looking at the literature here, giving students a clear structure with consistent expectations ensures students are more engaged academically and develop positive attitudes. Solomon et al. In 2000 said. This supports the idea of ensuring students knew what the countdown meant and recalling the group in, so they knew what they was expected when they get to 1. So they familiarised themselves with me. This helped me maximise the student engagement and benefit their academic success. So looking at how I set high expectations, it really assisted with my teaching, I thought, and to help maximise my student learning.